Here is a demonstration of 33 modern American violas held in conjunction with an exhibition at Metzler Violin Shop in Glendale, California on April 8, 2017. The violas came from all over the United States and Canada, and asking prices ranged from $8,000 to $35,000. Violist Richard O'Neill was on hand to play all of the violas, and Violinist.com brings you the entire demonstration in this series of videos.
Size is such an interesting thing with all of the fiddles here. I think this is kind of in the middle range of size, playability, the shoulders. And for me personally, I like shoulders that are narrow, because when you're shifting the framework, big roadblock is when you get into third, fourth position. And if the shoulder is too broad, too square, you end up having to really go around often. And I like narrow shoulders to the makers in the audience. So the brothers Amati pattern usually is narrow shoulders, and then some sort of volume distribution in the lower bow is nice, and very nice. A similar pattern, a little bit wider. I don't know, how did it sound to you? It's a little bit, has a nice sort of mellow quality. Nice evenness among the strings. I think that's another challenge as a player for me, is to find a fiddle that has power on the bottom, projection in the middle strings, which is deadly for violas. G, D, a lot of times in chamber music, solo playing, if our G or D string are weak, we're up the creek, because that's often where we need to project. Middle frequencies, rarely middle frequencies are too loud. Extremities, low, high, can be loud, but something about being sandwiched in the middle often makes it a challenge. So the middle strings on the middle instrument, very important. So I like this fiddle. The A is very, very nice, a little bit focused, I think.
This is also the largest instrument in the collection at 17 inches.
Just to proportionately see.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yes.
At this point, Richard, would it be
I haven't played on a 17-inch viola since I was in college. I've gravitated more towards 16, around 16 inches, 41 centimeters is sort of the magic number for me as a player. If you're a larger or more flexible person, I strongly recommend larger instruments. But for those that have difficulties with the stretch, especially if you can't maintain the framework of 1, 2, 3, 4 in the first position, I would not recommend any young students getting an instrument. Especially if the bow, if your arm's too short, or you just can't get the 4 curved, I would strongly recommend. For some reason, I think the stop length, I'd be curious even more time, the stop length to me is, sometimes a great solution for me is, with a big fiddle like this, it doesn't feel that big because I think the bridge is shoved towards the pegs, which makes actually the fingering, which is what really makes things, as long as you get past the visual thing that your hand's farther away from you, it actually feels just the same as the other two. So it doesn't feel like a 17-inch viola. I think this is a great example of an instrument that's around 16 inches that has power, direction, and depth of sound. I studied with the great Paul Neubauer and Angelino originally, and in my opinion, one of the world's greatest violists. Paul prefers smaller violas. He has a Brothers Amati that's been severely chopped down to like 16 inches on the dot. And a lot of people, that seems like a conundrum. A small viola means probably a small sound. It's not true. It's really not true. I've tried a lot of 16, 41, as long as it's around the magic number of 41 centimeters, that usually is the cutoff point. Anything under 41 centimeters, for some reason, the C string starts to sound like a rubber band. So I would, not always, there's always exceptions, but I would say this is a standout so far. I enjoyed this in the. What struck with me about this fiddle is that the lower bout, I don't know if you can see, it's proportionally larger, which I think gives it a nice sort of meatiness on the bottom, while still maintaining the narrow shoulders. So I like patterned violas like this. There was an interesting Guadagnini that I tried a few years ago that, Guadagnini was an expert maker. He was like the Ferraris of the string family. but a lot of his violas are very, very, very small. So this Guadagnini actually had a similar addition somebody actually built onto the lower bow to make it about this proportion, to give it that sort of, to me it always, that Guadagnini sometimes, you know, some violas survive being spliced and diced beautifully. A lot of Russian instruments, including my own, have been manipulated, and for some reason the construction was so great. Some instruments have been manipulated and they feel like they went to in and out maybe too many times. I actually have met Doug Cox. He lives close to Arbor, Vermont, he actually visits the festival in the summers, and several of my friends have purchased his instruments. I think he has a very beautiful talent of capturing the middle strings, that's beautiful, rich sonority on the D and the G. I think my friend Yura Lee, excellent violinist and violist, has concertizes on her Doug Cox. So I think it's a very, very manageable size. It's very nice. Where's Anton? Are you here? Anton, I wanted to ask the inspiration for these very bold Fs. Yeah, I love the Fs. They're really sort of like really very, very bold and a good proportion. I think to me that's a very important thing I look for oftentimes in the Fs. My first very nice viola that I owned was a very, very nice Tononi, but it had a violin scroll and violin Fs. And you know, for all the makers in the room, I'm just preaching to the choir, but to me it's very interesting what you as makers do to release the plate on this side, on the treble side and on the bass side, because you know the symmetrical Fs are very beautiful, but I've seen a lot of instruments, including one of my own instruments, that the treble F is sort of like it got lost or something. It sort of got cockeyed. But I love the Fs. I think it's a beautiful, very powerful, beautiful sound. Thank you.